The Finish Line is the second mission of Hitman 2, set at a racetrack in Miami, Florida. Alright, I'm not going to bury the lead here. The Finish Line is my favorite mission in the World of Assassination trilogy. That's right, Miami, not Whittleton Creek, not Sapienza. Miami is my favorite map in the series. This is it, folks. This is the reason I'm making this series distilled into a single level. When I first got Hitman 2 on PS4 in early 2019, I was so completely transfixed by this mission that I got to Mastery 20 and completed nearly all of the challenges before even moving forward to Three-Headed Serpent. Then, when I bought the PC version of the game later that year on the Steam sale, I did the same thing all over again and loved every second of it. Years later, when I feel like just playing some Hitman, if I'm stressed or tired or sad, and just need something to keep my hands busy and my brain distracted, Miami is my go-to. If Hitman 2 had been literally just the Miami map, I would have been satisfied. This series is already a love fest, talking pure sugar and affection about these games, and this is going to be the episode where that comes through the most. So settle in, maybe grab yourself a nice plate of fried coconut balls, and relax over the next couple hours. I'm writing this intro before I've even started on the rest of the script, so I don't know how long the video is going to be, but I have a feeling this is going to end up being the longest episode of this series yet, as I try to explain why Miami is the best level in the entire Hitman series. Providence has a pair of traitors in their midst. With the information you gathered from Reynard's computer in the previous mission, it became clear that Robert and Sierra Knox, the father-daughter pair in charge of one of the leading tech companies in the world, Kronstadt Industries, are defecting from Providence to the Shadow Client's militia, being spooked by the events of the first game. Providence is not the sort of organization people are allowed to leave, and so Robert and Sierra Knox are your next targets. The pair will both be present at the Global Innovation Race in Miami, where Sierra herself is driving a prototype race car, while Robert is working on demonstrating some experimental tech to the military. It's up to you to infiltrate the race and take out both father and daughter, and send a message to any other would-be defectors within Providence. The Miami map is broken into two distinct halves. From the perspective you have when entering the map for the first time, the right side of the map is where the race is taking place. This is the bustling public area filled with hundreds of NPCs. This is the area where the public are actually attending the race, the stands, the private pavilions, as well as the pit for the cars participating. The left side of the map contains the Kronstadt building, a former aquarium which was purchased and converted into office space, as well as a public showroom on the ground floor. This half of the map also contains a large public park space, just as large as the stadium for the race, but far emptier and quieter. The raceway itself serves as a natural barrier between these two sections. The stadium area is actually surrounded on all sides by the raceway, although there's no map past the pit building, so you only have to worry about one stretch of road. There are only 5 possible paths to cross the raceway, 2 bridges above it and 3 tunnels below it. The back 2 tunnels connect to a subfloor of the Kronstadt building, with bathrooms, a parking garage, and a security station. Let's start with the race side of the map. You begin the mission by default at the main entrance to the race, with a crowd filtering in. Thankfully, since Agent 47 is traveling light, you don't have to go through the bag check where everyone is being held up, and can walk right through the main gate, although you will need to pass a frisk if you want to enter this way. Off to our right is the main security office for the race, and a path leading backstage. To our left is the first of the 3 tunnels which can be used to cross the raceway if you want to head towards the Kronstadt building. You can find a street performer in this tunnel as well. I love how during the race, while you're in this tunnel, you can hear the cars passing you overhead. It's another nice detail. For now, let's assume you drop off any illegal items and head in through the main gate. As soon as you enter the race, you'll notice that the crowd density in this game immediately blows Hitman 1's out of the water. The busiest map in the first game is probably Marrakesh, which did have a lot of NPCs hanging about in the market area, but the race at Miami is on another level. This is actually a really neat piece of technical trickery to make the level feel this big without becoming too demanding for the game or the system it's running on. It might surprise you to find out that, according to my research, the Miami map only has 297 real NPCs in it. If you're looking to do the Kill Everyone challenge in this level, there are only 297 NPCs you'll have to take out, despite it feeling like thousands. That's because the crowd NPCs you can use to blend in actually function more like props. They have extremely limited AI, basically determining whether they need to stand in place or panic, run, and then despawn. You can identify the real NPCs from the crowd NPCs by looking at which ones are outlined when you're in Agent 47's instinct mode. To make the crowd feel more alive, the chatter you hear from the crowd when you're near them doesn't actually come from any specific NPC. It's just an ambient track of crowd noise that's looping, and if you listen really carefully, you can hear the same lines repeated no matter where you are. By mixing real NPCs into this crowd, they make the entire thing feel alive and dynamic, despite most of these NPCs actually functioning more like the game's foliage system than NPCs. Of course, Hitman 1 still used this crowd mechanic. Look at places like the Paris Fashion Show or those Marrakesh markets. But the density in this map, and later maps we'll look at in Hitman 2 like Mumbai, are really taking it to another level. It's really impressive. It reminds me of the way I felt when I saw the crowds in the original Assassin's Creed, or Dead Rising, for the first time. As soon as you enter, you'll see the blue Seed race car on a stand in front of you, and a photo booth off to your left. To your right is another entrance to the security station, and the checkpoint to enter the VIP area of the race. But let's explore the public area first. There are booths scattered all around, selling merchandise of Sierra Knox, her rival Moses Lee, and the Miami Raceway's mascots, the Flamingos, as well as food booths scattered around. Free drink with every order at a sporting event? That's the most unrealistic thing that's ever happened in a Hitman game, and I'm including the Easter egg where we let loose the moose. If you keep following the path straight down, eventually you'll reach a medical tent and then a bunch of outhouses with a security guard half paying attention. If you want a security disguise, this is always a really easy one to get early on. Next to the outhouses, in the stadium entrance across from the medical tent, you can see a shady guy trying to upcharge you for a VIP access ticket. Scalpers deserve to be punished, so feel free to knock him out and toss him in a dumpster to think about what he's done, and you'll walk away with a VIP ticket for your troubles. Behind the medical tent is a small staff room that's unlocked. If you go inside and overflow a sink, the medic at the tent will come investigate, which makes it an easy way to knock him out and steal his disguise. This little intersection is a great example of how the Miami map is not only huge and sprawling, but extremely dense with content. At this one little corner you never get directed to by the game, there are 3 entirely different options presented to you for how to get further into the level. Steal a security guard outfit to get into the backstage areas, steal a medic outfit to go investigate the medical facility set up behind the race, or steal a VIP access card to gain free access to new areas of the map in your normal suit. This tiny staff room also does a good job at highlighting one of my favorite things about this map, how they nail that extremely specific feeling of being in a loud, crowded area and then suddenly stepping away from the crowd and instantly being hit by the change in volume surrounding you.
It's as much about the car's stamina and technology as it is about the driver's talent.
If you've ever been to a convention or a sporting event, then you'll recognize that moment where you step out from the crowded space of the event into a quieter area, the parking garage or the outside hall. It's a weird thing to capture, but I've always felt like this map gets it exactly when you step into the tunnel underneath the raceway or the medical area. It captures that immediate snap from noise to quiet you get there, where you can still hear the noise of people but aren't surrounded by it anymore. As soon as you step into this secluded room, you get that exact feeling captured in a video game, which is really neat. It's a recognizable thing that games aren't usually interested in modeling, but which can really elicit a connection from the player. It's something they recognize from real life, and it's another one of those things that helps you buy into Hitman's world, helps you see this weird video game level full of stiff action figures, and tricks your brain into registering it as a real space full of real people. Alright, we need to move on from this corner, or this video is going to be 8 hours long. There's not actually all that much to do in the public sections of the stands themselves. They're packed full of people watching the race, and you can also find some snack bars and bathrooms off from the main area. Of much more interest to us are the many backstage areas of the stands. A few on the ground floor, but also the entire staff-only upper level. There are security guards patrolling the stands of this off-limits upper floor, and at the center is a control booth with race coordinators overseeing things. If you switch a fuse box off, you can distract one of them to come to a secluded room, to grab their disguise, which will get you into most of the race areas. You can also find an event area key on a shelf next to this fuse box. Also backstage from this area are some stairs leading up to one of two walkways that can be used to cross this raceway, used by race marshals to monitor the race. The marshal here is so absorbed in watching the race, he's extremely easy to take down if you want his disguise. This walkway leads to one of the upper floors of the Kronstadt building, where Robert Knox can be found, or you can take the stairs down to reach the lower level and the dumpsters off the side of the building. Back at the stands, there are stairs leading down below to the second of those tunnels we talked about earlier, leading to the parking garage on the other side of the map. But for now, let's go check out the VIP area. There are two main entrances to the VIP area you can get through with the pass we picked up earlier. One is right by the main gate, and one is back by the outhouses. Coming in from that first gate, there's the entrance to a VIP bar in the Raceway's office area straight ahead, above the garages for the various race participants. To our right as we enter, there's a much less heavily guarded way to get into a backstage area, which connects to that security office's back entrance. My preferred way to get to this backstage area and the security office is the locked door dead ahead from the VIP entrance. There's a camera right behind it, so be careful, but it can be pretty easily bypassed or just shot down, and then it's not too hard to sneak around even in the basic suit. There's a race marshal here standing in front of a hose, so this is a pretty easy place to get that disguise, although this backstage area is otherwise pretty empty, mostly serving to get repurposed into the main location for one of the remix missions we'll talk about in a future episode. The security station, on the other hand, is a very interesting location. It's very easy to sneak in through the back door here, and once inside, you can find two security guards interrogating a race marshal who was caught trying to install a bomb on the Kaun car.
You know what we call that? We call that domestic terrorism.
I'm just a delivery guy. I didn't even know what was in that thing. I may have taken a wrong turn somewhere, but that hardly makes me a terrorist. I think I need to call my lawyer.
Yeah, we'll see about that. In the meantime, we're keeping you and your stuff here. Just relax. You're gonna be here a while.
The bomb can be found in a safe in the adjacent room, and the combination can be found on a post-it in the main room of the security station. You can also disable the security cameras in the map here, but there's a much easier spot to do this in the parking garage, so I rarely use this one. Back in the VIP area, there are 3 paddocks here for the racers, mechanics, and their VIP guests to hang out in. We have the Thwack paddock, the Kowloon paddock, and the Kronstadt paddock. On the second floor of the Thwack paddock, you can find Sheikh Al-Ghazali, who we last saw all the way back in the Paris map, and Hector Delgado, a secondary NPC in the mission we'll be talking about next time in Colombia. You can overhear a conversation between the two, which references that the Sheik and Andrea Martinez, Hector's ex, were both seen back in the Paris mission.
Think nothing of it. I briefly met Miss Martinez in Paris some time ago. I got a good impression of her, and I am sure you will leave the same.
Yes, right. So anyway, I am heading back to Colombia after a few months here in the U.S. Business development, you know. My brother gives me a wide range of responsibilities.
Is that so?
Yes, and I thought it would be good to talk to you in person about some ideas I've been having, specifically about branching our business into your part of the world.
I see. The kind of product you produce is not quite as popular in the Middle East as it is here in America. I suppose an enterprising individual would consider that an opportunity?
Exactly right. Our chief chemist is working on something entirely new, something which will definitely be of interest. All I'm asking is that you maybe help us open a few doors in exchange for a fee of some sort.
Mr. Delgado, I have all the money in the world. I could cover every building in my country in 24-karat gold, and that wouldn't even exhaust my petty cash wallet. However, I was impressed with Miss Martinez and her network of informants. I think we may be able to arrange something.
Miss that's good. Good, yes, I'm glad.
Excellent. Tell your boss I'll give her a call soon.
Andrea isn't my boss, Your Excellence. We're partners.
If you say so, Mr. Delgado. Good day.
There is, of course, a challenge for disguising yourself as the Sheik. There's also a challenge to pick up a brick of cocaine, which Hector will drop when you take him down. This is actually a bit tricky because if Hector is too high off the ground when he dies, the brick will burst into dust when it hits the ground. You have to shoot him in the leg first to knock him to the ground if you want it to remain intact. The Kowloon paddock and the Kronstadt paddock mostly serve as locations for Moses Lee and Sierra Knox, respectively, to patrol once the race itself is over. There really isn't very much of interest to either, other than the Kronstadt paddock being a good, highly secluded place to take Knox out if you don't want to follow any of the more scripted opportunities. This brings us to the large building in the back of the VIP area. The ground floor of this building is where all of the garages for the racers to make pit stops in are. Specifically, we can access the Kronstadt garage, Kowloon garage, Aeon garage, Thwack garage, and Sotterraneo garage. All of these, as you might expect, are recurring brands within the series. Kronstadt and Kowloon are rival tech companies, Aeon is a sportswear company, Thwack is an energy drink, and Sotterraneo is a beer brand. If you like fake brands in games, and I do, this whole level is honestly a treat. For example, one of the sponsors of the Aeon car is Sanguine, which we've seen pop up tons of times at this point, most notably, of course, from the fashion show back in Paris. The garages are pretty much what you'd expect. Of note is that both of the frontrunners for the race are actually cheating. You can find an illegal experimental Kronstadt octane booster in both the Kronstadt and Kowloon garages, which can be used for a mission story later on, but which also implies that despite Moses Lee insisting that Kronstadt have been cheating to gain an upper hand in their rivalry, he's not above doing so himself either. In a basement level below the garages, there are locker rooms for the racers and mechanics. You can find a Kowloon mechanic disguise down here, as well as a pit building keycard and a unique disguise called the Pale Rider, which we'll discuss in detail in the Easter egg section of the video later on. The second floor of the pit building is the main attraction for the VIP area, a VIP lounge for fans and press to rub elbows with the racers and mechanics. There's a huge party going on here, a bar, people dancing, two girls getting high out of their minds in the bathroom.
I love this stuff. Well, let's get some more. No, wait, I still have plenty. Should we find some cute guys? No, we don't need cute guys. This is a girls' day out. Got power! Love it!
The works. There's also press around interviewing racers and mechanics. One of the press members away from the main room is speaking in, I believe, Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, so if any of my viewers who do want to do me a solid and go eavesdrop on her and tell me if there are any Easter eggs in her dialogue, I'd appreciate it. One neat detail in this VIP building is that all of the signs placed on the doors in the building also have their Braille translations underneath them. That's a really well-observed detail, the kind of nod to accessibility you do see in public and event buildings like this in real life. One cameo in this VIP lounge area is Heidi Santoro, Jordan Cross's bandmate, who was a secondary NPC back in the Bangkok mission, and who is now playing in a band with Abel De Silva, the drummer who you impersonated in that mission. The upstairs area also has a kitchen, a server room, a security station, and the office of the manager of the race, Maxwell Rudder. Next, we move on to the area behind the race itself, off limits to the public. The main points of interest in the back here are the main medical center, a modular building set up as a doctor's office in case of emergencies, and a large abandoned hotel that's been taken over by Kronstadt, specifically Sierra's men. You can't go inside the hotel, but the exterior is patrolled by numerous bodyguards, primarily in the building's courtyard. There's also an alleyway running behind the hotel. This area is primarily used for one of the mission stories, so we'll talk about it again later on. It's worth mentioning there's one Kronstadt bodyguard asleep entirely by himself on the roof of the hotel, which makes him incredibly easy pickings if you need one of the best disguises in the level, which has access to almost the entire map. The area behind the race also has a path leading underground through the final tunnel, and another bridge, which is the final of the 5 routes across the raceway. This path leads to the winner's podium, which is located behind the Kronstadt building, and which we'll talk about in a moment. That covers the right side of the map, Sierra's side of the map. So now let's rewind all the way to the beginning, the main gate of the race, and follow that tunnel leading left to start exploring the other half of the map. Although Robert's side of the map is just as sprawling, the points of interest are much more concentrated. There's a lot of negative space here, areas you don't really need to visit for any scripted kills, and which neither Robert or Sierra really patrol to. The major points of interest here are the Kronstadt building itself, the winner's podium, and the dock where a character we'll talk about in mission stories, Florida Man, likes to hang out. The rest of this side of the map is made up of a huge park where you can find various NPCs hanging out, exercising, and the like. At the far back of the park is a giant memorial shaped like an anchor, surrounded by plaques with names. I don't think it's explained what this memorial is anywhere, but I assume it's some sort of Navy monument. As far as I know, this monument area isn't used for anything in the game, including the remix mission set in Miami and elusive targets. It's one of the neatest pieces of negative space in the game. I've said before that I really like that Hitman has these spaces that are very clearly hand-designed points of interest that the game never really directs you to. It's another way the game makes its spaces feel very authentic, and it makes modes like Contracts or Freelancer more interesting, as they can make use of these spaces that most players probably never paid much attention to. In front of the Kronstadt building, there's a small garden with hedges blocking some equipment, most notably a shredder that can be used to hide or dispose of bodies. In front of the main entrance to the Kronstadt building, there's a large fountain with statues of dolphins. Down by the docks, there's a closed office used for boat tours, which is handy for knocking out nearby NPCs since it's hard to see into. You can also find a speedboat key on the counter here, which is used for one of the exits. There are also some more food stands in the park behind the boat tour building. Behind the Kronstadt building is the winner's podium building. This is mostly made up of one large room set up for press to do interviews with the winners and for officials to watch the race. There's an area full of coolers for food, kegs, and bottles of champagne off to the side as well. The podium itself is split into 2 levels. The top level where the winners will go to accept their trophy, and a level underneath full of various equipment, including the pyrotechnics. That just leaves the Kronstadt building, actually named the Miami Bayside Center Expo, which is a massive building that really serves as the bulk of this side of the map. We've already spent a lot of time talking about everything outside of the Kronstadt building, but this building is as big as some levels of the game, like Paris or New York, all on its own. We'll start with the basement. The bulk of the basement area is a parking garage that connects to the tunnel system running to the race. This parking garage also connects to an out-of-order elevator shaft, which can be climbed up to reach the next 2 floors of the Kronstadt building covertly. At the center of the parking garage is a security station, which can be very easily broken into. There's a fuse box on the side that can lure a security guard out, where he can be very easily taken down and hidden. Inside this security station is the easiest place to disable security cameras, maybe in the entire series, since it's being watched over by a guard that's fallen asleep. This is almost always the first thing I do when I'm starting a new run on this map. The security station also has stairs leading into the Kronstadt building proper. In these tunnels, you can also find the Flamingo mascot involved in a mission story, as well as a race marshal uniform in a supply room, the event area key next to it, and a VIP area pass sitting in a bathroom nearby. There's not too much else of interest on this floor, so let's go upstairs and enter the main floor of the Kronstadt building through the front door. As you enter, you'll find a welcome desk straight in front of you, a coat check and a hallway leading back to your left, and the path to the main entrance, as well as some stairs leading up to the second floor off to your right. The Expo Center is hosting a show open to the public of Kronstadt's public-facing technologies. Robert Knox himself used to be a race car driver, and at the entrance to the expo floor, you can see his old car, as well as a cardboard standee of the man himself in his younger years. The show floor is host to several Easter eggs from the Hokkaido level, as Kronstadt were the ones who developed much of the experimental technology found in that level. The Kai mainframe from Hokkaido and the experimental surgery bed which we saw working on Eric Soder's can both be seen here, as well as a refined version of the Ayakashi AI featured in an Easter egg in that level, now a ball droid called the K-Buddy. A second experimental race car, like the one Sierra is driving, serves as the centerpiece of the show, as well as a jar of the octane booster we found in the garages, and an android produced by Kronstadt called Veneer, designed to do menial labor, chores, and the like. The screens behind Veneer show what it's looking at, and the android has unique lines of dialogue when it sees you wearing various disguises.
Hello, sir and or madam. Kronstadt Cosmetics and Beauty Products carry an excellent formula for airy growth. Please contact our sales offices for a brochure.
All of these technologies on display also have stands in front of them with buttons that can be pushed to hear Robert Knox read a brief description of them.
Expanding on the consumer line of products is key to the global success of Kronstadt Industries. The K-Buddy is one example of the innovative approach to robotic companionship spearheaded by the company. Selling millions of units, the K-Buddy was an overnight success and has been the friend to an entire generation of children all over the world.
Back at the entryway, if we had continued down the left path past the coat check, we could find some of the staff-only areas currently closed to the public. There are storage and locker rooms back here, and you can find a key card for accessing the building in one of these lockers if you need one. There's a large aquarium currently closed to the public on the ground floor of the Kronstadt building, with 2 security guards patrolling around it. There's some fun stuff to do here. For example, you can shoot the large statue of a shark that's hanging to drop it down onto the guards' heads, or you can shoot the aquariums to cause them to explode, knocking out the guards if they're caught in the wave. You can pick up the fish and starfish from the aquariums if you do this and use them as a melee weapon or as throwing stars, respectively. You can read the plaques here to learn a bit about Kronstadt Marine Technologies, an arm of the company that is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to save the oceans from overfishing, poaching, and plastic pollution. That all sounds well and good, but just put a pin in this, keep it in mind for a few videos down the line, because there's some stuff in the Isle of Scale mission, the final mission of Hitman 2 pre-DLC, that I think puts that in a slightly more sinister light. Behind the expo floor, we can find another stairwell, this one connecting to the security station in the parking garage below, and also up to the second floor of the building, and we can find engineers and security guards patrolling areas set up with equipment and supplies, as well as a garage where you can find yet another bottle of Kronstadt Octane Booster sitting on a shelf with 2 engineers discussing it nearby. You can also find a maintenance room connected to the empty elevator shaft, and an exit to the dumpsters outside. There's only one security guard here, who you can observe playing some sort of mobile game on his phone while on duty, making him easy pickings if you want to take him out. Moving upstairs, the second and third floors of this building are where you'll find Robert Knox patrolling, unless you do something to lure him outside. This is the most heavily secured area in the entire map, swarming with Kronstadt bodyguards patrolling around, and Kronstadt engineers working on their projects. If you came up the main stairwell, you'd find a small storage room off to your right. This is where the top floor of that elevator shaft connects, as well as being where the bridge passing over the raceway connects to the upper floors of the Kronstadt building outside. There are a few empty office rooms on this floor, as well as a large conference room connected to a balcony. The balcony connects to another storage room, which is connected to another balcony on the opposite side. The main attraction for this floor, one of the most memorable areas of the entire map, is the robotics lab and demonstration room on the far side of this floor. Robert Knox is set up to demonstrate a new militarized version of his veneer androids named Palace to a military official, and you can find the demonstration as well as the lab where the head of the project, Derek McInnes, is working on the androids. You can pick up and carry android arms to be used as melee weapons, like a baseball bat, if you'd like. There's also another unused office connected to the robotics lab. There are only 2 stairwells leading up to the final floor of the Kronstadt building, but there are also several places where you can mantle up the side of the building or climb up pipes to reach the 3rd floor more covertly. However you make it upstairs, the final floor of the building features Robert Knox's private office, his personal assistant's office, a rooftop garden, a personal gym, Knox's private bathroom, and one last security room. Off to the side, there's another storage room, and past this, we can find a satellite dish placed on the rooftop, which will be involved in certain kills. Knox's office is full of people monitoring Sierra's race in real time, as well as trophies and memorabilia from his days as a race car driver himself. Finally, there's a helipad on the roof of the Kronstadt building, with a helicopter that you can use as an exit, or which Robert Knox can use as an escape if things in the mission get too heated. And that, broadly speaking, is the Miami map. As you can tell, it's an absurdly huge level, easily the biggest in the series so far, maybe the biggest and most densely packed in the series overall. It even dwarfs levels like Sapienza and Marrakesh from the first game, and the entire thing is full of incident and opportunity. I believe the Mumbai map is technically larger just geographically, but it also doesn't feel quite as densely packed as this one does. A Hitman level is only as good as the targets you're taking out, though, and luckily for us, we've got 2 of the series' best this time around, in the form of the father-daughter pair of Robert and Sierra Knox. So let's take a closer look at our targets, shall we? Robert is the more straightforward of the 2, at least mechanically speaking. He works much like you'd expect any Hitman target to by this point. He has a set patrol path on the upper 2 levels of the Kronstadt building, and he won't deviate from it unless you do something to force him off that path. Robert is portrayed as a bully with a very good PR department. Publicly, Robert Knox is perceived as a good-natured, if slightly eccentric, businessman, but in reality he's egomaniacal and frequently berates his employees, most of all Derek McInnes, who is working on the Palace project.
I just can't nail it. Something about the console, but I'm not sure what.
So?
Well, a man died.
Yes, that was quite unfortunate. I believe legal has resolved the matter with the wife. Well, widow.
Well, more importantly, it feels like the biometric scanners aren't 100%. If you really want to go ahead with this crazy demo, we should at least make sure the console can't fail. It's not exactly tamper-proof.
So fix it. Look, McInnes, I'm counting on you here. I'm literally putting my life into your hands with this demo. We need to pull this off. I know you don't like it, but I'm the boss and I like it. Big sales is what I do. Make it work.
I'll see what I can do.
This extends to the perception of Kronstadt as a whole. The mission briefing tells you that Kronstadt is beloved by consumers worldwide for their public-facing technologies, while few are even aware that they're also responsible for the development of high-end military hardware. A minor subplot in this level is the Tungan Valley incident, that Robert and Sierra Knox brokered a deal with the dictator of a small country to sell him a cutting-edge drone, which he used to bomb peaceful protesters.
And although it has yet to be proven, there is little doubt that the Knoxes personally brokered the deal, making them complicit in a war crime.
He's also obsessed with robotics and other advanced technologies, seeing the singularity as inevitable and imminent. Sierra is a bit more complicated mechanically. You arrive during the race, and since Sierra is a driver, she isn't initially present physically within the map itself. Rather, she's in the Kronstadt car on the raceway. Much like the previous mission in Hawke's Bay, the finish line is broken into two distinct phases, during the race and after the race. Unlike Nightcall though, these phases aren't triggered by 47's actions, they're time-based. If you want to take Sierra Knox out during the race, you need to do that first, because as soon as the mission starts, you have a ticking clock until the race ends, and you'll need to find a new approach to taking Sierra out. Once the race is over, she patrols between the Kronstadt garage, Kronstadt paddock, and the bar in the VIP area above the garages. By default, without your intervention, Moses Lee, Sierra's rival and the Kowloon driver, will win the race, and Sierra will come in second place. Her post-race behavior will change if you tamper with the race to make her win, however, as she'll divert to the winner's podium before returning to her normal post-race patrol route. If you want to end the race early, you can do that by disguising yourself as a race marshal, going to the post between the Kronstadt building and the winner's podium, taking out the real race marshals there, and waving the flag to disqualify either Sierra Knox or Moses Lee. There's also a spot where you can flag racers by the second walkway at the very back of the map. Sierra's image is a lot less managed and a lot more explosive than her father's. She's hot-blooded and impulsive, and highly competitive, especially with Moses Lee.
Yep, Sierra usually finds a way to come out on top. Remember Eliza, the Swedish model who started dating Romanov, Sierra's old flame? I heard she got mugged right after their third date. Only thing is, the mugger didn't steal anything. Just beat her up real bad.
Oh, that's just rumors. Sierra wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. If you say so.
She also desperately wants her father's attention and approval, which leads us to the secret sauce that really makes these targets especially compelling to me, their strained relationship with each other. There's a ton of dialogue and backstory about how these two are constantly fighting like cats and dogs. Sierra's mother died in childbirth, and in her mission briefing profile, we can learn that she believes Robert has always blamed her for this. This has led to a massive inferiority complex, where she's constantly trying to one-up everyone around her, most of all, her father. One of my favorite details in the mission is that Robert is constantly monitoring the custom smart suit Sierra is wearing during the race, and her winning is one of the few things that will get Robert to leave the Kronstadt building, as he'll come to see his daughter accept her trophy. However, he also insists both of these things have more to do with wanting to revel in his car and his company leading her to victory than being proud of his daughter. We can hear reporters comment that Robert made a statement before the race began that the car was so good it could essentially win the race all on its own, another way of putting his daughter down. More than either of the targets on their own, to me, the real star of this mission is the relationship between them, and I think we'll see quite a few examples of what I mean by that as this video goes on. I genuinely think it's a really compelling portrayal of a toxic relationship between two extremely flawed and narcissistic people. So now, let's move on and talk about some of the many, many ways you can kill those two narcissists, shall we? In the garden area outside of the Kronstadt building, you can overhear two NPCs talking about a nearby food stand, Florida Man's coconut balls.
You know Robert Knox eats here.
Really? I had no idea it was that good.
Oh, it's good. It's real good. I mean, I get cravings if I don't come down here to eat once or twice per week. At one point, when I worked near here, I ate lunch here every day.
But Robert Knox? He's like a big shot billionaire.
It's true. I was standing in line behind him yesterday. He talked about how he loves this place to death.
When you look at the stand, you see that the owner, Florida Man, has put up a "Gone Fishin'" sign. Luckily, you can actually find Florida Man at the end of the pier, alternating between fishing and trying to buy crystal on the phone. While this sounds like a drug deal, he's actually just trying to buy some sugar because he ran out and has been unable to open his stand because of it. Thankfully, there's a room you can lure those who are in line of sight of him into, which makes taking him out much easier. Once you've disguised yourself as Florida Man, you can use his food cart key to open it for business. Robert Knox will notice and will make his way down to the cart. As Florida Man, you can poison the coconut balls in plain sight, easily taking Knox out. If you want to get Florida Man to open the shop himself, you can disguise yourself as a food vendor and pick up one of the bags of sugar hidden around the level. Approaching Florida Man in the food vendor disguise gives you the chance to hand the sugar over to him.
Oh, man, yes! You're a lifesaver. I thought I was going to have to mug a diabetic or something to get this. Time to cook up some magic.
Perhaps the most iconic kill in Miami is sabotaging Sierra Knox's car during the race to cause her to crash, taking her out in a fiery explosion. In order to do this, you'll need a Kronstadt pit crew disguise. The easiest one to get is found at the stands at the race. You can hear him make a phone call saying that he's left the Kronstadt pit unless he's paid more because of Sierra's volatile temper. You can follow this guy to the outhouses behind the stands, where he can easily be taken out and hidden. Once you've become a pit crew member, you can overhear other members of the team discuss how Sierra has made her own car much more dangerous in order to gain some extra speed, and how any sort of crash would almost certainly be fatal.
Did you know that Sierra Knox herself requested that the roll cage was pulled from her car to make it lighter and faster? That woman está loca.
Grace told me over beers last night. Also told me how Sierra had blown a fuse when Grace refused to comply. Apparently they reached some sort of a compromise, though. Now, I would not want to drive that car. Any major crash, and you're not walking away from that.
I couldn't agree more.
There are 3 different ways to handle the pit stop. First, if you don't want to take Sierra out here, and just want to get her out of the race early, you can put sugar in her gas tank. A bag of sugar can be found upstairs in the kitchen of the VIP lounge. Doing this will cause the car's engine to die, costing Sierra the race, but not killing her. The second option is to grab a nearby pneumatic wrench and loosen the tires on Sierra's car. This will cause her to lose a wheel, spin out, and crash the moment she leaves the pit. The third option is to plant a remote explosive on the car. Initially, this will let Sierra leave successfully, but as soon as you pull the trigger, her car will explode and crash. This will be perceived as an accident kill. Back by the pier where you can find Florida Man, you can overhear 2 race officials discussing the pyrotechnics for the stage, where the winner of the race will accept their trophy.
So, I'm gonna run over and play around with the pyrotechnics for the podium ceremony.
What? No, you can't fool around with that. We didn't get the replacement pressure valve, so I literally duct taped everything together just now. You could fry everyone on stage if the pressure gets too high.
But Rudder asked me to test it.
If he asks, just tell him I've got it under control. Whatever you do, don't touch the setup.
Okay, gotcha.
Without any sort of intervention, Sierra Knox will come in second in the race, losing to her rival Moses Lee. Obviously, that's a problem because Moses Lee is not one of your targets. If you disguise yourself as a Kowloon mechanic, you can sabotage the Kowloon car in any of the same ways you're able to sabotage the Kronstadt car during that mission story. Of course, if you want to go for Silent Assassin, the best route here would be to put sugar in the engine, which Moses Lee will survive. Once Sierra has won the race, she'll make her way up to accept her trophy. Using a wrench will allow you to increase the pressure on the pyrotechnics, which will blow the stage up upon them deploying, killing everyone on stage.
Target down. Next up, Robert Knox.
There is a subtler approach here if you'd rather not kill the bystanders also on stage, though. The trophy itself is filled with champagne, and although it's just for show, you can hear one of the race officials ask her to please not drink from it, as she's been known to do. If you get a race coordinator disguise, you can get on stage with the trophy, and although poisoning it is a suspicious action, no one will be watching you to see you do it. When she drinks from the trophy, she'll die, and you can get the Don't Drive and Drink challenge. At the medic station next to the motel, you can overhear two of the staff discussing Sierra Knox's explosive personality, and how she's booked a special rejuvenation IV for after the race. Unfortunately, this is being delayed by another patient suffering from urinary retention. There are a couple of ways this mission story can play out. The most obvious is, of course, to take out Dr. Sorensen and the driver who is ahead of Sierra Knox in line. Doing this will allow you to page Knox once she's finished the race, as long as she loses to Moses Lee. Poisoning the IV drip will require a lethal syringe. Luckily, one can be found in the medic station just a few rooms over from where the IV is set up. Once Knox has arrived for her treatment, you can poison her in plain sight, and take her out easily. You get some really top-notch dialogue from 47 here, as Sierra asks what's in the treatment, and 47 honestly replies, belladonna, hemlock, and so on.
Miss Knox, come on in. Have a seat and relax.
So, what's on the menu? Something that'll take care of this hideous pain in my neck, I hope.
I promise. Once I'm done, you won't feel a thing.
So what's in this thing anyway, Doc?
Mostly floral extracts, hemlock, belladonna, aconite. It's designed to be fast and efficient.
Fast and efficient. I like that. Wait, belladonna? Isn't that poisonous?
Yes.
Should I be concerned?
I'm not. Just relax. It'll be over soon.
Come on, let's go, Doc. I'm a busy lady. Hey, you know what? I do feel refreshed. Thanks, Doc.
My pleasure, Miss Knox.
I don't feel well, Doctor.
Don't worry. It'll be over soon, Miss Knox.
While it's a bit trickier to pull off, this mission story also provides a great opportunity for a death by proxy, which is always fun. If you distract the doctor, lure him out of the room by turning off a generator outside, you can take the patient out silently and hide his body. When Dr. Sorensen returns and sees the patient is missing, he'll assume he's slipped away and will move on to Sierra. If you poisoned the IV while no one was looking, Dr. Sorensen will accidentally kill her during the treatment.
Miss Knox, good to see you. If you'll just sit right here, I'll hook up the IV.
Fine. Will this take long? I've got things to do here.
Shouldn't take but a few moments, Miss Knox. I'm sorry about the delay. We had one of your drivers here, Mr. Durant, and he, well, it took some time to get the necessary sample from him.
I'll make sure to talk to him about it tomorrow. What's in this thing, anyway?
Oh, it's quite a potent mixture of vitamins, anti-inflammatory compounds, and essential minerals. It's a sort of booster to your system. Endurance racing takes a lot out of the body, and this is a good way of getting your system rebooted in a hurry.
Does it cure hangovers?
Well, yeah. Some people have used the treatment for that as well.
Good. I'm planning on getting absolutely smashed later on. I'd like to reserve another dose for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do. Right, let's have a quick look here. Everything looks fine, Miss Knox. You should start feeling the effects shortly.
Thing's stuck. Oh, and it's fine to pull back a few drinks after this, right?
Another option, which awards the challenge potty training, is to wait until the patient is trying to pee in the bathroom, at which point you can simply turn the sink on. The running water will finally do the trick, and the patient will leave all on his own. Poor Dr. Sorensen. From the sound of things, his record hasn't been going well. This isn't going to look good for him. In the Kronstadt building, one of the pieces of technology on display is the same model of car that Sierra is currently using in the race. You can hear the engineers here discussing how this car is Robert Knox's baby, and if anything goes wrong with it, he'll come down to fix it himself, as the engineers there have strict orders not to touch it. You can also hear two engineers in the garage out back discussing Kronstadt's new octane booster, a sort of super booster rocket fuel that can be used to increase speed in the race. I've already mentioned several locations where this octane booster can be found. Using a screwdriver and disguised as an engineer, you can sabotage the engine of the race car. One of the engineers will notice and will call Knox, who will come straight down to fix it. If you use the octane booster on the car while it's disabled, then when Knox fixes it and asks you to try the engine, it will explode with a jet of flames, killing him.
Strange. It shouldn't behave like this at all. Try the engine, Smith. All right, try it now. This should work. Ah, here we are. Just a loose wire back there. Let me just reattach it. Good. Hit it, Smith. Oh no!
Both targets down. Well done, 47.
In the parking garage beneath the Kronstadt building, you can see a man in a pink flamingo mascot outfit acting suspiciously, watching a man who had been jumped down the hall. It turns out the man who was jumped is the real mascot, and this guy attacked him in order to steal his mascot costume.
I'm here now, ready to meet up with Sierra Knox over at the hotel. Yeah, after the race. I've just got to pick up the documents from my van, but I had to knock out a guy and steal his flamingo outfit, and now I can't find my car keys.
It turns out he's blackmailing Sierra Knox with confidential documents about Kronstadt's part in the Tungan Valley massacre, and told her that he'd be meeting her at the hotel behind the racetrack in a mascot costume after the race. I do not know why he specified he'd be meeting her in the mascot costume. That does not make a lot of sense to me. The blackmailer dropped his car keys when he jumped the mascot, and the blackmail documents are in his van. No keys, no documents, no blackmail, so he's trying to figure out a way to get his keys. If you go get the car keys and knock the blackmailer out to steal his mascot costume, then you can attend the meeting yourself once the race has ended.
So, it's a great outfit. Thinking it must get pretty warm in there, though.
It's insulated.
Huh. Imagine that. I guess it would have to be if you're supposed to wear it for hours and hours every day. Do you know, get to use it at home? For parties and things like that, I mean.
No.
Right. I have a friend who's into that sort of thing. Cosplay, assuming imaginary identities. He says it's very liberating. Takes him out of the stress of everyday life and work, you know?
Not really.
Yeah, I guess it's different when you do it for a living. How's the pay?
Sufficient.
Nice. Okay, good talk.
Once Sierra reaches you, she'll demand you give her the blackmail documents. Do this, and she'll ask to be left alone so she can try to intimidate you while burning the papers above an open pit. A perfect opportunity to kill her and hide her body in one fell swoop.
So just to get this straight, you claimed in your email to have somehow found internal reports that show Kronstadt's involvement in the Tungan Valley massacre.
Sounds about right.
Let's be clear. You and I are having this meeting because my father doesn't need to know about this. It's just another undesired distraction. I don't care if the information is true or false. I don't care if it mentions moving money from the Nexus project into Tungan Valley damage control, as you claimed in your correspondence. I do care about protecting my father, which is why you and I are now here. So here's the deal. You hand over the documents and leave, and that's the end of it. And you will do that now. So here are the two possible outcomes of this meeting. One, you will leave this place and this country for good, and that will be the end of it. Everyone lives happily ever after. Two, you don't choose option one. Someone dies, right here, right now. Which do you prefer?
Not much of a choice, is it?
No, not really. Goodbye.
If you'd like, you can simply give the car keys back to the blackmailer, at which point he'll trigger this conversation himself.
Well, I'm sure your father would be very interested in the reports, concluding that someone has been funneling money from the Palace project into Tungan Valley. Damage control.
I see. You're taking an awful big risk here. I could just call the cops on you.
You're too smart to do that, Miss Knox. The police show up, arrest me, and the papers go into evidence. It would only be a matter of days before they leak to the media. Pay the money and I'll be on my way.
Huh. No. I think I'll just end you right here.
What?
Who exactly do you think you're dealing with? You think you can come here and threaten me? I'm Sierra Knox. You're just a tiny fucking sardine in a tank full of sharks, my boy. And you're about to be eaten.
You pathetic moron! Trying to blackmail me, using my father against me, is the dumbest shit you ever pulled. Nobody pushes me around. Nobody! Now, good fucking riddance.
Ouch. I guess those wings didn't work.
There's a challenge called Sympathy for the Bird to save the blackmailer from Sierra Knox before she kills him, and another called Last Words to let Sierra Knox kill you here.
Nobody pushes me around. Nobody! Now, good fucking riddance.
What the? Oh, no, you don't.
Outside the Kronstadt building, you can see a man in a military uniform hanging out by the fountain. When you first spot him, Diana will tell you that he is Ted Mendez, a high-ranking military-grade money man. Mendez is here to get a pitch from Robert Knox, but is annoyed with him as the last time they were scheduled to meet, Robert left him waiting for 4 hours. So to get payback, Mendez is keeping Knox waiting this time around. Mendez will go have a cigarette just outside of this courtyard, and you can easily lure him into it, knock him out, and then hide his body in a shredder there. Once you've assumed Mendez's identity, you can enter the Kronstadt building and walk straight upstairs to the demonstration room. What Robert is demonstrating is a new killer robot they've designed called Pallas. Pallas is designed to be a robot super soldier able to be fed biometric data, aka a picture, and accurately take the target out. I love listening to Robert pitch this horrifying, immoral technology and spin it as both ethical and efficient. It really does feel like a tech company pitch.
I'm gonna say something provocative now, Ted. War is going out of fashion. It's dirty, it's just plain bad PR. Nobody wants to exchange their children and loved ones for flags and medals anymore. The glory is gone, Ted. But, luckily, Kronstadt has a solution for that. Imagine this. Android infiltrators operating in the field, disguised and fully embedded, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Indestructible robotic operators who can infiltrate the deepest sanctuary of any adversary, striking an unseen fatal blow, a surgical tool for a blunt world. Imagine an army of them, fully equipped android medics, seeking out wounded servicemen and injured civilians, bringing them to safety, or patching them up then and there. Android pilots delivering payloads deep inside enemy territory with uncanny precision and minimal collateral damage.
In order to demonstrate how accurate the technology is, Knox will step onto the firing range and ask Mendez, or rather 47, to scan a picture of one of the 3 dummies there. If, instead, the player scans a picture of Robert Knox, then Pallas will kill him. while seeming like an innocent malfunction of the technology.
Nobody wants to exchange their children and loved ones for flat. God damn it.
Robert Knox.
Aw, crap.
Robert Knox down.
Man, this
now
one
for
looks
the
like
heir
Max.
to the Kronstadt Empire.
I need some help here to clean this mess up.
Such photos can be found all over the Kronstadt building, both on the stairwell leading to the second floor and just down the hall from the demonstration room. That's it for mission stories, but there are a lot of unique kills here that aren't related to mission stories, so let's get into them. One challenge, called Shafted, requires you to kill Robert Knox by throwing him down an elevator shaft. While this can be done a number of ways, there's a scripted kill here that makes it really easy. As I mentioned in the overview of the map, in the security station by the default entrance to the level, you can see 2 security guards grilling a race marshal who was carrying a bomb along with a note from Robert Knox saying to plant it on the Kowloon car. The bomb and the note can be found in the evidence safe, which can be opened by picking up the code on a post-it note in the front room of the station. The note mentions it being written in Rot 13, which is a real variant of the Caesar cipher, which has you replace every letter in the alphabet with the letter occurring 13 places after it, in case you were curious. Rot 13 is a trivial cipher in real life, but I do love that this implies that Agent 47 is not only able to recognize such a cipher on sight, but instantly decode it in his head. Obviously, you could use this bomb to kill Sierra, but by instead taking it to the Kowloon pit and getting a Kowloon mechanic disguise, you're able to sabotage the Kowloon car in the same way you would have sabotaged Sierra's in that mission story. You're then able to go to any of the payphones found in the level and use a coin to call Robert Knox, who will tell you to meet him on the northern overpass, so that he can pull the trigger and kill Moses Lee himself. You can actually hear him reason that this bombing will be written off as yet another attack by the militia, which is rather smart, using the Shadow Client's ongoing war against Providence and the 1% as cover for killing a rival.
Mr. Smith, a pleasure. Do you have the trigger?
Right here, sir.
Thank you. Tomorrow's papers will surely just write this off as a terrorist militia attack on some rich corporate CEO, but you and I will know better.
Robert Knox will ask his bodyguard to leave the two of you alone for a moment, which gives you a chance to kill Knox by pushing him onto the track. But if you instead knock him out, and his bodyguard for good measure, you're directly next to the room with the elevator shaft, which makes dragging Knox there and throwing him in to complete the challenge from here trivial. A related challenge to this is called Explosive Liaisons. Here, you complete the same set of steps by sabotaging the race as previously mentioned, but instead of sabotaging the Kowloon car, you plant the device on the Kronstadt one. Then steal a Kowloon disguise and meet with Knox as you did last time. He'll ask to pull the trigger and will unintentionally kill his daughter himself. His reaction is great, as he assumes this is a message being sent by Providence, telling him to get in line or that he's next. He's almost correct.
Oh, here he comes.
Target down. Next up, Robert Knox.
Sierra? How did you... Oh. I see. I see. Of course. Don't say anything. I understand. A warning. Get in line, or bad things happen. I won't be a problem. I get the message. I suppose it's quite elegant. Admirable, even. If you will excuse me, I need to go away and be alone for a while. You understand?
After this, Knox will attempt to flee the level in his helicopter, so should be taken out immediately. One challenge, called Shredding the Evidence, requires you to eliminate a target with the wood chipper near the dolphin fountain, where you can initially find Ted Mendez. In order to do this, I systematically clear enough of the second floor of the Kronstadt building, including Robert Knox's personal bodyguard, to knock him out and clear a path from that area all the way down through the parking garage, disabling the security camera, out into the courtyard, and then carefully avoiding patrolling NPCs, drag Knox's body along the northernmost wall in the level until I reach the courtyard. The section with the dolphin fountain itself is undeniably nerve-wracking, but as long as you hug this wall, none of the NPCs in this crowd, nor the security guards and journalists at the entrance to the Kronstadt building, will actually notice you. Of course, you don't have to do this silently, and I believe this challenge even works in contracts mode, so I'm imposing some additional challenge on myself here, but that's how I like playing Hitman, and I've always enjoyed this challenge for that reason. A challenge called The Man in the Sea requires you to kill Robert Knox by knocking him off the pier with a giant fish hanging there. In order to get Knox down to this pier, you need to lure him downstairs with Florida Man's coconut balls, but not poison them. He'll decide to go for a walk after eating, and will reach the pier after a moment. The kill itself is really hard to time correctly, as Knox will not stand still in the correct position, but the hinge on the opposite side from Knox must be shot just before he passes the sign. It'll swing into him, knocking him off the pier and killing him. If you're not spotted shooting the hinge, then it'll be seen as an accident kill. There's a very similar challenge called Bigger Fish, which simply requires you to do the same thing to eliminate Florida Man rather than Robert Knox. Robert Knox suffers from severe chronic dry eye that flares up whenever he's in low humidity environments. He has prescription eye drops in his private bathroom that he'll use when it flares up, so if you can interact with the air conditioning unit in his office and set it to high, it'll cause the humidity in the office to drop, which will trigger him running to the eye drops. Poison the eye drops before this happens, and this can be a really easy way of killing Knox with either lethal or emetic poison.
Something's... no, what's happening? The pain!
Once the race is over, regardless of who wins, Sierra Knox has plans to face her rival Moses Lee down in a drinking game. In the VIP lounge area, you can find 6 shots set up next to a bottle of extremely hot chili sauce. Once the game begins, Sierra will spike one of the 6 shots with the sauce, and whoever drinks the spiked shot loses. If you disguise yourself as Moses Lee, you can take part in this drinking game. Using instinct mode, it's easy to tell which of the 6 shots is spiked, which means you can easily make sure Sierra drinks the spiked shot. Of course, you can easily poison the chili sauce just before the race begins to kill Sierra, but once she drinks the spiked shot, she'll rush to the kitchen looking for some milk to stop the pain. There's a glass of milk, mislabeled glass of water in the game, sitting on the counter, and this is another option for poisoning her. Ensuring Sierra drinks the chili shot will award the Milky Way challenge. Before each shot is taken, Sierra and 47 will use a lighter to light it on fire. Because of this, you can also poison the chili shot with the Kronstadt Octane Booster found throughout the level. This awards the Hot Shot Redacted Challenge. Finally, there's a third challenge, 47 on the Scoville scale, to drink the chili shot yourself. It's hot enough to actually get a reaction out of 47, forcing him to cough in response. The challenge Moving Target requires you to eliminate Sierra Knox by sniping her car during the race. This is actually easier than it might sound. The 2 overpasses are secluded, with 1 and 2 race marshals respectively, and make perfect sniper nests once those marshals are taken out. You don't need to be very precise. Hitting the car at all will cause Knox to spin out and crash, but you do need to lead your shot in order to successfully hit her car. One of the challenges in this level, called Fish Slapping Dance, requires you to eliminate someone with a fish, knocking them into the ocean where they'll drown. This challenge doesn't require you to actually take out a target, just anyone, but it's easy enough to do with Robert Knox by getting him to come downstairs to eat, and then following him during his walk afterwards. He'll pause to take in the ocean during this walk, and can be hit with the fish to complete the challenge. A challenge called Under the Sea requires you to kill Robert Knox by dropping the large shark in the aquarium on him. There are a few ways to do this, the most straightforward being to simply knock him out upstairs, clear a path down, and drag him below the shark. But I'm going to tell you the most elegant way I figured out. If Robert Knox is locked down while on the bottom floor of the Kronstadt building, then security will take him to the aquarium room in order to secure him, and he'll stand directly below the shark. In order to do this relatively easily, I followed the same steps that are required for the turbocharged mission story, using the octane booster on the car in the expo and sabotaging the car, then knocked out several of the engineers nearby once Knox had been alerted to the car's troubles. With no one around to get in the car and start the engine, Knox will do so himself. The explosion from the engine will not kill him this way, but it will alarm everyone enough that security escorts him to the aquarium, where you can easily shoot the shark with a silenced pistol in order to silently kill Knox without being seen and achieve the challenge. As I mentioned earlier, Robert Knox is using the race to test a new smart suit, monitoring Sierra's vitals and performance during the race minute by minute, and giving her injections in order to improve her performance. You can hear two of the scientists talking about this, as well as mentioning that Knox has recently bought Sanguine, in order to incorporate this tech into smart clothes for the ultra-wealthy. There's a satellite dish monitoring the suit on the roof outside, and a USB dongle on Robert Knox's desk, which can be used to sabotage said dish. If you do this, Robert Knox will immediately come running to check on the dish, which will put him in a precarious situation, where he can easily be pushed onto the racetrack, which will earn the Message challenge. If you time this correctly, right as Sierra's car is going by, you can actually push Robert directly onto the front of Sierra's car, which will cause her to lose control and crash, taking both targets out at once and unlocking the Tree Falls on the Apple challenge. Aside from the usual alternate starts and agency pickups for mastery rewards, you unlock the Lockpick Mark II, in case you're coming to the Hitman 2 levels without having played either Hitman 1 or 3 missions first, at level 2. You also can't use your full set of loadout slots in the Miami map until you've reached at least level 2, which is similar to what they pulled on Hokkaido in the first game in order to make your initial attempt more difficult. At level 4, you unlock one of my favorite melee weapons in the game, the fish. I love slapping people unconscious with this thing, it's great. At level 5, you unlock a sniper rifle. At level 7, you unlock a pistol. At level 10, you unlock a proximity taser. At level 13, you unlock the proximity explosive rubber duck Mark II. At level 15, you unlock a more different pistol called the Concept 5. At level 18, you unlock the ICA remote audio distraction Mark II. And at level 20, you unlock a concussion grenade. Hitman 3 added a few items to the mastery list, specifically a briefcase at level 10 and the fishing line, which can be used as a fiber wire at level 16. Now it's time to talk about the Easter eggs and details in the Miami map. Settle in, because not only do we have a lot of them, but they're some of the best and most obscure in the series so far. Hitman 2 really stepped up the Easter egg game, in my opinion, so let's dive in. I've been excited for a while now to share one Easter egg in particular about this level, so let's go ahead and start there. In the aquarium, you're able to look up above you and see the room where the live fire robot demo is taking place, with a sign reading "Live Exercise in Progress." If you bring a sniper rifle into the aquarium and aim it at that window, 2 graffiti letters, O and M, will suddenly appear on the window. If you're playing in Hitman 3, make sure you've turned reflections off or you'll be unable to see anything due to the glare. If you line up the letters properly, you're able to make the sign read "Live Exorcism in Progress." After a moment, the target dummy in the window will begin to move, its head turning to look at the sign before reaching out at 47. If you let this animation play out in its entirety, then when you leave the sniper rifle view, The dummy will have vanished and will appear behind 47 as though about to strangle him from behind. Easter egg perfection. If you take out Maxwell Rudder, the manager of the race, he'll drop a USB dongle. Taking this dongle to the server room in the VIP building, it can be used on a laptop there, as another method of stopping the race early. When disguised as a mechanic in the VIP lounge, a reporter can sometimes try to interview 47.
Hello? How do you think the race is going?
Go away.
If you want to mess with Florida Man, you can get the cocaine brick from Hector Delgado, disguise yourself as a food vendor, and hand that over to him instead of a bag of sugar.
Alright, now for some sugar. What's this? Oh man, is it that powdery crap again? I told her 1,000,000 times it doesn't work in the food. Huh, that's not sugar. Baking powder? Woohoo! Shit! Shit! Yeah!
He'll sample it while trying to figure out what it is, and then start running laps and doing push-ups throughout the park. Apparently, the Pale Rider disguise, which can be found in the lockers below the pit, is a reference to something called the Stig from Top Gear. I'm not British enough to know what this is. The Black Stig? First White Stig? What is this? The BBC versus HarperCollins? The publisher? Not the publisher. Okay, wait. Yes, the publisher, but also some guy named Ben Collins? In the USA Road Trip special, the presenters branded the Stig a traitor. May declared his true name to be Judas Iscariot. In a challenge mimicking a drive-by shooting, the targets used were cardboard representations of the Stig, with Hammond taking special care to shoot the Stig in the back. On 26th of December 2010, 5 days after the USA Road Trip special, Top Gear aired a Middle East special in which the presenters reenacted the journey of the three wise men to Bethlehem. At the episode's conclusion, they discovered a manger cradling not Jesus but a baby Stig. What is this show? I had no idea there was this much lore surrounding Top Gear. I thought this was a show about cars. My god. You can actually see a swarm of flies buzzing around Florida Man on higher quality settings. Also, Florida Man being named Florida Man is a reference to the internet meme about all the crazy news stories that start out, Florida Man does such and such. I know you already got that, but I'll say it out loud anyway. It's heavily implied throughout the level that Sierra Knox is gay, although not publicly out.
You know what someone told me the other day? That Sierra's not just quote-unquote between relationships, but that she has no interest in men. I mean, like, zero. Zip.
And who told you that? One of those young mechanics that I see waltzing in and out of your...
How much time remaining? Don't worry, folks. Anything can still happen.
Instead of having a personal bodyguard, like most targets in the series, Sierra is followed by a woman named Bridget Cabot, once Sierra is off of the racetrack, who frequently flirts with Sierra only to be scolded in return.
Hey, Sarah Bear.
I told you not to call me that.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Of course, this implies that Bridget is privately Sierra's partner. The nation responsible for the Tungan Valley incident, Kandanyang, and the Po family who rules it have been referenced several times throughout the games, including the Crown Prince, Tren Po, being present at the Iago auction in Paris. Officially, Kronstadt has no idea how their drones were acquired by the Po family, but of course we know that's not true. You could hear Derek McInnes, the head of the Robotic Infantry Project, and another scientist discussing a rumor that Robert Knox is planning on giving Jin Po access to the robotic infantry in a few months in order to do a large-scale field test.
So, I'm hearing rumours on the corporate grapevine. Apparently, Knox wants to do a large-scale field test of Palace in a few months.
That sounds like one of those entirely unfounded rumors that gets spread around down at the local bar after work. Palace isn't in a state to be field tested on any scale.
Well, Lyle from outsourcing told me there'd been a request to reach out to Jin Po. The reply back had been positive.
That's insane. If that's true, Why would Knox risk another test after the Tongan Valley massacre?
Well, from what I understand, Jinpo is pretty lax with his import taxes and has a lot of money in the bank. I suspect Knox wants a piece of the pie. If Poe offers a few rebels to help improve Palace, Knox is apparently down with that.
If this leaked, the media would eat Knox alive.
He dodged that Tongan Valley bullet pretty well.
Only because Jinpo is a lunatic and had no qualms about taking the blame for the massacre. Still, makes you wonder.
Sure does.
Once the race is over, Sierra will have several references to the Tongan Valley incident, if you eavesdrop on her. You can hear her take a call with a Kandanyang ambassador and start to broker the sale of even more missiles to the nation.
Mr. Ambassador, so nice of you to take the time to talk to me.
Miss Knox, a pleasure. What can I do for you?
As you know, we've been receiving some, well, unwanted attention locally around the unfortunate incident in Tongan Valley. But I wanted to assure you that our PR department is on top of things and have by now more or less entirely discredited the relevant media outlets.
Yes, we've been paying attention to the situation. An unfortunate side effect of allowing a free press, I suppose. I'm glad to hear you're on top of things.
The journalists we've got in our employ are hardly free. But I understand what you mean. Now, about the new order of surface-to-air missiles.
Yes. Everything is ready on our end. Financial transfer is set to be initiated shortly.
Excellent. My father asks that you provide a guarantee in terms of their use. These are meant for training exercises only, correct?
Oh, absolutely. We're looking to deploy these as part of an exercise near the coast. There's only a few indigenous tribes in the area. Nothing anyone should be concerned about.
That is wonderful, Mr. Ambassador. Well, in that case, I'll finalize things on our end, and we'll talk again soon.
And a journalist will slyly try to trip her into giving a statement about it while interviewing her after the race.
Miss Knox, thanks for taking the time. I understand this isn't a formal interview, but just wanted to touch upon a few things real quick.
Quick, hopefully being the operative word here.
Yes, of course. You were ahead for most of the race, but it seemed like you inexplicably started to drift a little towards the final few laps. How hard is it to keep up for as long as you need in a race like this?
Not all that hard, to be honest. I think the car started to show some issues around the halfway mark, and despite my best efforts, it really slowed down around the final 3 laps. A driver can only do so much, you know?
Yeah, sure. So the car may have had some issues, you say. I understand your father, the famous Robert Knox, built it himself?
Along with Grace Miller, who apparently needs to do better next time.
I see. Now, I did talk to her a few minutes ago, and according to her, the car operated flawlessly. Now, you've been under some pressure with this Tongan Valley incident.
Oh, I see. So that's what this is about. Tell you what, you reach out to Kronstadt Corporate PR and talk to them about that. I believe they have a very slick statement ready for you. As for this interview, we're done. Don't talk to me ever again.
There's also a reporter outside of the Kronstadt building who wants to get inside to ask Robert Knox about the incident and believes they are covering up their involvement in it.
The fact is that Kronstadt is very likely withholding information on what actually happened in Tongan Valley, and I think the people have a right to know.
My editor got me to chase the story too a few months ago. I called up their PR department, talked to some guy called Mickelson. Gave me the biggest runaround I've ever been on. Complete dead end.
That's why I'm thinking I should take the shot here. Robert Knox has got to know something, and if I can corner him somehow...
Risky. Jinpo publicly took on the responsibility. Hell, did you see that leaked interview from their local network? He bragged about how he'd deployed those drones against the rebels and completely destroyed them. Knox can just point to that and be done with it.
But he can't deny that those were his drones.
Stolen goods. They'd lost a shipment of Raptor drones when the Maelstrom raided the cargo ship in the South China Sea last year. Darling, he can deny anything.
Complete BS.
Of course. But good enough to provide them with plausible deniability. These people are good, Jen. You're not going to catch them screwing up.
Maybe you're right. My editor did tell me he'd put me back on weather if I rattled the cage again.
Play it safe. Live to write another day.
The K-Buddy robots show the words "Don't Panic" on their screens during the mission briefing, a reference to Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you listen to Robert Knox during his walk after eating, you can hear him call his personal assistant and grapple with the implications of his invention, Pallas, as well as his grand ambitions for the future and the singularity.
Antoine? It's me. I'm down by the water. Looking at the horizon, I'm wondering what's next for us. Soon we'll have created an entire new race of beings to live alongside humanity. Huh. What next? Space. Well, someone else will get us there. Space is vast and empty and ultimately a waste of time. Although, I suppose, if there was a way to turn the planet into a maneuverable spaceship. Extinction? Oh, by then we'll have moved beyond the flesh anyway, Antoine. You think the ultimate goals of Pallas, Kai, and Nexus are anyway? The flesh is going out of style, my friend. Give me 30 years and I'll have us all uploaded into indestructible robotic shells. It'll be a glorious future.
There is a challenge and an Easter egg which are related to each other in this level, the challenge called Thorough Demonstration, and the Easter egg referred to as the Pink Army. As mentioned during mission stories, the Pallas robot being demonstrated during the mission story The New Army will kill anyone whose picture is scanned into it, which can be used to kill Robert Knox. There are actually pictures of other NPCs scattered throughout the level, and if you can get any of those NPCs in front of the robot and scan their picture, it'll shoot them dead too. These pictures available in the level include Sierra Knox, Florida Man, Derek McInnes, Ted Mendez, and the Pink Flamingo mascot. Killing any of these NPCs with the robot will award the Thorough Demonstration Challenge. The Pink Army Easter egg and the associated achievement for triggering it in Hitman 2 requires you to kill a flamingo mascot with the robot, while yourself being disguised as the flamingo mascot. There are a few mascots scattered throughout the level, but with the exception of the one in the parking garage, they're mostly in very public spaces, so the easiest way to do this is to enter the level as the mascot with one of the alternate start locations. Knock the mascot in the garage out and hide his body in the parking garage security office, although do not use a body dump as you can't take someone out once you've put someone in a container. Then go upstairs with a different disguise and carefully clear out the entire area nearby the demonstration. Drag the flamingo mascot upstairs, place him in front of the robot, and then scan the photo, and you'll have successfully triggered the Easter egg. The Easter egg will turn every non-crowd, non-target NPC in the level into the Pink Flamingo mascot. Hundreds of flamingos overtaking the race like some sort of bizarre flash mob. Moreover, while it won't change the security level of the mascot outfit, any NPC turned into a flamingo will no longer be an enforcer for that disguise, whether you're trespassing or not, which, with the exception of security checkpoints, pretty much gives you free reign of the entire level. I love this Easter egg. It's just so quintessentially Hitman. It's a lot of fun to wander around populated sections of the map and see everyone in mascot costumes. Plus, it makes some of the interactions between 47 and other NPCs commenting on the mascot costume very strange in the best way.
So, that's a great outfit. Thinking it must get pretty warm in there, though.
It's insulated.
Huh. Imagine that.
If you tail Sierra Knox to the VIP lounge bar, you can observe her talking to Heidi Santoro, mentioning that she attended Jordan Cross's funeral and getting some insight from Heidi on her perspective of what happened during the Bangkok mission.
Heidi, my God, I haven't seen you since Jordan's funeral. How are you?
Sierra, fine, just fine. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? You know, time flies when you're living the rock star lifestyle.
I saw the invite to the unveiling of the new album. De Silva Santoro really became a thing, huh?
You know, Abel nailed it on that last track we did with Jordan, so why not? Oddly enough, he doesn't remember anything from that session. Apparently, he blacked out in the hotel room, woke up the day after with this massive headache. Drummers, man. I mean, they just can't hold their liquor.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. I'll be there. And I'll show that to Silva guy how to empty a bottle of bubbly, all right?
Sounds like a plan, Sierra. Talk later, yeah?
You bet.
When Sierra is killed during the race, the pit crew's lead will make a call to Robert's personal assistant, Antoine Mack, who will say that Robert is too busy to be informed of his daughter's death.
Mr. Mack, it's Grace Miller in the Kronstadt pit. Are you watching the feed? It's Sierra. There was a crash. It looks bad, real bad. We can't see her vitals. Well, Robert needs to know. That's why I called. It's his daughter. Wouldn't he want to... I understand he's busy, but she could be dead, for God's sake. Fine, I'll let you handle it. Asshole.
There's a challenge called Mr. Tambourine Man, which requires you to disguise yourself as the street musician in the tunnel by the entrance and blend in using his instruments. A challenge called The Thunder Thief requires you to take out Moses Lee while he's on his way to accept the trophy for winning the race, and then take his place for the ceremony. This can be pretty tricky since you don't have a lot of time to pull it off. The easiest way I've found of doing it is to use the alternate start as a Kowloon mechanic, take out the entire garage right at the start of the race, and then simply wait until the race ends, taking Moses Lee out as soon as he enters the garage. This is one of the most annoying maps to get Chameleon, the challenge to equip every disguise, on because of how many unique but similar disguises there are. Just a few tips if you're stumped on this one. Every mechanic disguise is different, and every driver disguise is different. There's a separate disguise for Moses Lee and the generic Kowloon driver, who can be found around the VIP lounge. Also, if you're only missing one disguise, I suggest trying the Blue Seed driver, who is at the autograph booth at the main entrance. He's very easy to forget about. There's a redacted challenge called Deja Du, which requires you to use a sniper rifle to shoot a specific pigeon sitting outside a window on the Kronstadt building. You can get a clear shot from the overpass at the very back of the map, the same one I recommended using to snipe Sierra's car. The title of this one is a reference to another challenge from the Sniper Assassin minigame, which we'll talk about a couple episodes from now. There are some really wild secret exits in this level. First of all, we've got the Flamingo secret exit. If after taking out both targets, you make your way all the way up to the top floor of the Kronstadt building, while disguised as the Flamingo mascot, you'll discover that the helicopter has disappeared, with a bird's nest in its place. Interacting with this nest... Next is the Stig exit, which involves the Pale Rider outfit I mentioned earlier. If you manage to kill both targets while disguised as the Pale Rider, you can make your way to the Kronstadt pit, where there will be a special exit for you.
Some say he does a perfect shave and has an insatiable fondness for hiding in cupboards. All we know is his name is 47.
It is my understanding that this is a reference to Top Gear. Finally, and most devilishly hidden, is the secret exit at the Dolphin Fountain. This exit is extremely buggy. You can do everything right, and half the time it just won't trigger, but here's how it's supposed to work. Once both targets are down, equip a fish, and go to the fountain in front of the Kronstadt Center. When you do this, the fountain will start to go off in a specific pattern. If you run over each of the fountain's spouts in the order they go off, an exit will unlock. Lindsay Lecoeur, the journalist first seen at the beginning of the Paris mission, can be found in this mission covering the race, and she'll interview the winner of the race after it's concluded. If you follow her after the race, you could also hear her discuss a story on Florida Man and his coconut balls. Like her other appearances, you can annoy her by stepping between her and the cameraman while they're recording.
But with the race up...
Cut! Fuck it. Sorry, some asshole was in the frame.
Jesus fucking Christ! What am I, fucking invisible? I'm working here! Shit! Ugh! Let's just go before I start ripping heads This is Lindsay LaCour reporting from the Global Innovation Race event.
There are 2 references to the YouTuber BigMooney06, who is known for doing kill everyone challenges in these games. One of the escalation missions for Miami is titled the BigMooney Flamboyancy, and there's another Easter egg hidden if you manage to kill everyone in the level. Every time I've tried this, I can't get it to trigger. I'm not sure who I'm missing, but I'll just link to a video of the Easter egg in the description because each attempt I make at this is like an entire afternoon, and I've got to actually publish this video someday. If you look inside one of the tanks in the aquarium, you can see a pineapple next to a kitchen sponge. Clearly a reference to SpongePants SquareBob. You can find post-its in the shape of a duck in this level. One of the notes says, "Alan, please add details," a series in-joke. Names are for friends in the exchange between 47 as the Flamingo and Sierra Knox is a reference to Blood Money's tutorial.
Names are for friends.
Very well.
What the fuck they call you?
Names are for friends, so I don't need one.
The challenge Red Flag requires you to get the race cancelled by causing too many accidents. Because Kronstadt and Kowloon are the only pit stops you can take part in, the way to do this is by shooting cars on the track. After you've caused 3 cars to wreck, the challenge should pop and the race will be over. In the garage security room, there's a letter posted to the wall that reads, "Dear Mr. Player, I am writing to apply for the finance manager position as advertised in the West Britain Ref 12345 ABC. In this paragraph, detail the skill and experience you feel you can offer the company against the advert and job description/person specification if available. Now state why you are interested in the role and why you want to work for the organization. End positively, encouraging a response, e.g., I look forward to hearing from you. Yours sincerely, Sunny Outlook." There's an ad near where you can find Florida Man for Il Piccolo Mondo del Vino wine, a winery in the town portion of the Sapienza map. You can hear 2 Kronstadt bodyguards on the roof of Robert's building talking about how the events of the game have caused demand for private security all over the world to explode, and how they're making triple the rate they were just a few months ago. Good for them. Get those dollar bills, guys. People have hung banners saying "Knox is a fox" and "Moses marry me" in the stands at the race. Another GNN news program can be found in this level near the aquarium. Here, Pam Kingsley mentions a drug war escalating in Colombia, which is a reference to the next mission.
The drug war between the rivaling Delgado and Moreno cartels saw an escalation this week, as a dozen mutilated bodies were found bricked up inside a residential complex in Medellin. The victims were identified as Delgado sicarios by their cartelling, and the massacre is believed to be retaliation for the brutal dismembering of Moreno cartel boss Esteban Montoya's beloved nephew Chico, who was shipped to his uncle by courier service in 25 gold-rimmed boxes. The once minor Delgado cartel has risen to prominence under the cunning and brutal leadership of Rico Delgado, and lately the cartel has been consolidating its power, challenging the Moreno's position as the region's premier drug manufacturers, and DEA experts fear the conflict will get worse before it gets better.
Hearings into Zaydan's failed military coup in Marrakesh are beginning, including a reference to the Jack Sparta novel you could overhear being written by the headmaster in that level.
In Morocco, hearings into the failed military coup d'etat began today with the testimonies of several captured Zaydan loyalists, who all maintain that the deceased general acted alone in his attempt to overthrow the country's democratically elected government. A question which has spawned several popular conspiracy theories, involving everyone from the CIA to the Freemasons. Next week's hearing will focus on Swedish banker Klaus Hugo Strandberg, who, willingly or not, played a key role in General Zaydan's intricate plot, which is feeling more and more like the plot of a Jack Sparta novel.
Sebastian Sato is launching a new gender-neutral clothing line, returning to the fashion industry following a nervous breakdown after his boss was killed, a reference to the Paris mission.
Acclaimed designer Sebastian Sato has launched a new gender-neutral fashion brand. Sato, who until recently was head designer for famous couture brand Sanguine, suffered a nervous breakdown following the mysterious demise of his boss, Sanguine CEO Viktor Novikov. And his return to the limelight will surely excite fashionistas everywhere who, like this reporter, have had it up to here with early 90s normcore.
The body of Sean Rose was found by some children in Colorado.
In Colorado, a body discovered in the desert has been identified as FBI most wanted bomb maker Sean Rose. A group of local children made the gruesome find close to an abandoned apricot farm, which, according to sources at the FBI, may have served as the training ground for a private militia. Whether the demise of Rose, a known left-wing terrorist, is in any way connected to the recent string of anti-corporate assassinations remains to be seen.
And the events of the global innovation race going on in Miami. There's a whiteboard in the medical station where you can see on their to-do list board that one patient is being booked for a lobotomy. There's a blue variant of the Flamingo mascot suit available as a permanent cosmetic unlock. In Hitman 2, this was made available through a set of challenges called Spring Breaker. Upon Hitman 3's release, these challenges, like many other themed content updates from the first two games, were not carried over. So the only way to get the blue flamingo suit in Hitman 3 was by unlocking it in Hitman 2 and then importing your save, which can only be done once. Some of these challenges, like killing a target with a wood chipper, did make their way into Hitman 3, just not the meta challenge that unlocked the suit. Thankfully, the blue flamingo suit and many similar unlocks were eventually made available through the featured contracts challenges, in this case requiring the player to complete 45 featured contracts on maps from Hitman 1 or Hitman 2. In the head race marshal's office, there's a magazine called Hit, catering towards hitmen sitting on a table, with articles such as Agent Improv and Jet Set Dining, as well as one reading what looks like New Hitman video game is on the way. You can find members of the crowd wearing the class t-shirts with Jordan Cross's face on them. If you look at the endorsements on Kronstadt's car and related material, you can spot several businesses which have been mentioned as being connected to Providence in previous missions, including Quantum Leap, Ether, and Hampson Oil. There's an engineer on the second floor of the Kronstadt building who is calling HR, complaining about Robert Knox and his bodyguards drinking all of the Fountain View soda out of the machine before he can get any.
Oh, hello, HR? Yes, it's Finn Wheeler down at the Bayside Center. Listen, I realize this may sound trivial, but the Fountain View soda dispenser has been on the fritz since we moved in. I can't work without my energy drinks, and I have been forced to bring my own. Well, yes, that's right, they fixed it today, but, and here's the problem, you see, Mr. Knox and his entourage of gun-wielding bodyguards managed to empty the machine in 1 hour. I was thrilled to receive the email telling me the machines were back in order, but to come in and discover how Knox and his goons have been seemingly bathing in Fountain View all morning, well, let me tell you, the disappointment is substantial. Not a matter for HR. How so? I don't think it's wise of me to take it up with Mr. Knox himself. No, I see. Well, yes, well, thank you.
If you go to the upper floor of the Kronstadt Pavilion, where Sierra hangs out, you can find a lot of sanguine bags. Okay, we need to just dial in on Derek McInnes for a second, because there's a lot. There are several documents detailing the abusive way Robert Knox treats Derek McInnes, the head of the Palace Project. McInnes keeps journals, one of which you can find in the basement beneath the aquarium, and another which you can find in the robotics lab. These journals explain that Derek McInnes was on the run from the Yakuza when Knox found him and recruited him to his robotics team, although working on Palace has distracted from McInnes's true goal to create companion robots, which Knox finds disgusting. If you listen to Robert Knox scolding Derek McInnes for the demonstration not being ready yet, you can hear he mentions that he found McInnes in Kabukicho.
You are kidding, right? Biggest day of the year. the decade, and you're telling me we're still red? Are you telling me we're still red?
Look, hang on. It doesn't make any sense. I just checked this. I ran the calibrations twice.
Let me make something painfully clear here, McInnes, you pitiful amateur. This machine will work by the time our guests arrive. I entrusted you with the responsibility of a simple calibration, and you've somehow managed to screw that up royally. If you don't have this mess sorted by the time I return, I'll make sure you end up back in that filthy little alley in Kabukicho where I found you. Does rummaging through containers looking for silicone rejects for your disgusting love doll sound good? I'm sure the Yakuza would love to welcome you back too. You understand me?
Yes, I understand. I'll make it work.
See that you do.
Kabukicho is a real entertainment district in Tokyo, which you might recognize as the inspiration for the primary setting of the Yakuza games, Kamurocho. I love the Yakuza games, so that was fun to come across. You can also see someone has taped a crude drawing to McInnes' back. The drawing is signed K, which I assume indicates Robert Knox was the one who did this. McInnes' reaction to Robert Knox being killed by Palace is extremely funny on several levels, if you stick around long enough to observe it. First, you can see him immediately pull out his phone and start nonchalantly explaining to what sounds like a significant other that he's going to be late because Palace killed another person.
Hey, honey, it's me. Looks like I might be a little late again. Well, you know, someone was killed. Again. Almost every day at this point. Can't really be bothered anymore. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. Anything else? Do we have eggs? Okay, so milk and, what? Red or white wine?
What the?
Can I get a beer? Yeah, cool. See you later, honey.
Ah, this day just keeps getting...
I guess you'll call us?
Once he's done with the call, he'll immediately make a beeline for the back room of the robotics lab, where he'll have a conversation with his personal project, Dolores, the version of the Palace/Veneer android designed for, let's say, personal and physical companionship.
Oh, Dolores, my sweet. I know it's been difficult these past few months. I know I've been spending too much time on your brother and neglected you and your needs. I promise, once this presentation is done and Palace has been given the seal of approval, I promise I'll dedicate all my time to you. You'll change the world, Dolores. I know Knox thinks Palace is the big thing, but he's wrong. Nobody will care about that abomination once they see your splendor and experience everything you have to offer. People don't want strong warriors fighting battles in far-off countries with names nobody can remember. They want companionship, someone to spend their hours and years with. This is what Knox doesn't understand. He sees you as an object, a tool to satisfy some primal physical urge. He's a savage. I'm creating life here, Dolores. Your life. Other people's lives. A man like Knox has no idea what it's like to move through the world unnoticed, unloved. A man like Knox who surrounds himself with sycophants and yes men and people who will go to any lengths to impress him in order to get access to his riches. What does he truly know about the human condition? About the crippling loneliness felt by millions of people, young as well as old? Well, sure, companionship is about the physical aspect as well, Dolores. That's why I'm building you the way I am. Am I wrong to want to create a beautiful creature? Am I wrong to have physical desires towards my own creation? I think not. We have a connection, you and I. A genuine emotional bond, unlike anything else in the world. In time, others will have this with you as well. Just imagine, one day you'll be the most loved creature in the world, and I'll be your first love.
To me, this raises the question, do you think his significant other is into it? Do you think his girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever also has a thing for robots? Do you think he even has a significant other? I could fully believe McInnes is the type to pretend to call his girlfriend who lives in Canada on the phone in order to look cool in front of the other scientists on the project. You can hear some of the Kronstadt engineers on the second floor of the building discussing the robotics project, and one of them is concerned over how this robotics project is going to replace humanity.
I don't know. I think it's a little too ambitious. I mean, I understand the need to replace certain types of workers with robots, but this seems like he's effectively trying to replace everything.
That's what I love the most. How's this for a pitch? We at Kronstadt love humanity, but let's face it, flesh is old, analog, limited. At Kronstadt, we're focusing on the digital human, to bring humanity to a connected world full of possibilities. With robotics and artificial intelligence, humanity becomes more powerful than ever before. Limitless.
No, man, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Welcome to Creepy Town. Population Kronstadt. Nobody's gonna buy into that.
Well, we don't specifically state that we want to replace humans with robots.
Really? McMasters wrote this last night, and I quote, "The replacement of the human workforce with a robotic one is not only practical, it's ethical." It just makes plain sense. The Palace Enhanced Servitor series will, in the span of a single human generation, have evolved 9 times. In 20 years, it will have mastered everything we as humans have accomplished in the last 2 centuries. The development potential is just staggering.
Well, yes, all right. Maybe we need to tone that down a little.
In Robert Knox's office, you can see his Twitter feed, although it's a duck icon instead of the real Twitter icon, and a news feed, both of which are full of Easter eggs. You can see that Robert Knox follows several of the other companies owning cars in the race, talking about the race, as well as following his daughter, whose username is @HardKnox. He also follows Lindsay LaCour, the reporter who was at the entrance to the Paris Fashion Show back at the beginning of the first game. Finally, you can see he follows Florida Man and even responds to him on Twitter, telling him he'll be right down to get some food. The newsfeed mentions the events in the Marrakesh mission, although it seems to be written while the situation was going on, along with some other related stories. There's one headline that reads, "Fortuna, what's at stake for America?" which is a reference to Santa Fortuna, the location of the next mission. There's also an article mentioning that the class are to disband following Jordan Cross's death, as well as a sports story about the Hokkaido foul play, a reference to the baseball team seen in the Hokkaido level. Finally, there's an ad to plan a week-long getaway to beautiful Sapienza, Italy, for $600 per person. One funny detail is that the news page is dated, saying it was last updated at 5:05 p.m. EST, Thursday, February 17th, 2011, which is obviously completely breaking the timeline of everything in the game, but this is such obscure content, I think we can excuse them. Back in Paris, if you keep tailing Margolis, there's a reference to a combat drone being developed by Kron Lund Industries. Clearly a rough draft of the backstory for this mission. You can hear Robert's assistant taking what sounds like a call from a Providence Herald, demanding a meeting with Knox to question his loyalty as soon as possible. It's worth mentioning that Knox himself wears a Providence Herald pin on his lapel. One of the bodyguards on the top floor of the Kronstadt building was at the Hokkaido mission, and was poisoned with fugu while there, presumably by Agent 47. Luckily, Kai was able to save his life.
You'd think that a top-notch medical facility like that would be able to serve fugu clean, but no. If it hadn't been for that medical robot, Carl or whatever it was called, I wouldn't be here today.
So in a way, Robert Knox saved your life. That why you chose this gig?
No, what do you mean?
He built the robot that saved your life in Gamma.
Ah, did not know that. Funny that. Maybe I'll jump in front of a bullet for him after all.
Only fair, I guess.
A man on the docks, near where you can find Florida Man, can be overheard making a CSI Miami joke.
So, the question becomes, did he wear the pants? Or did the pants wear him?
Yeah! Dun, 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 dun.
To me, the finish line and the Miami map in general are the perfect storm of what makes a level great. Everything I like about the World of Assassination trilogy is here distilled into one perfect map that deserves to forever be listed in the video game level Hall of Fame, alongside such heavy hitters as World 1-1, the Painted World of Ariamis, or Ravenholm. This map is elegantly designed, it's always easy to get from every point to every other point, but there are enough enforcers placed in strategic positions that you always have to keep on your toes. The story of the mission, and more specifically the characters you're taking out here, are among Hitman's most memorable. And as the first full-scale level of the game, it does a good job shifting the focus of the story to 47 and Diana working for Providence, in a really interesting way. The mission stories run the gamut from high-octane, exciting, explosion-filled delights to some of the silliest and stupidest things you'll ever see 47 do and say. This mission is one of the funniest in the entire series. Whenever I just want to play some Hitman, if I don't feel like dealing with freelancer mode and just want to mess around, I find myself coming back to Miami more times than not. I've put more time into this one map than the full runtime of many games. Games I like, and every time I come back, I find myself discovering new details. This map being the first real map of Hitman 2 also serves as a powerful mission statement for the sequel. Hitman 2 is essentially a level pack kind of sequel. There are new features like foliage and the briefcase, but for the most part, what you're getting here is more of the same. What makes that work is the scale, how big and how intricately designed these levels are. Miami is one of the biggest, and I think the best, but the remaining levels we've got to come are no slouches either. I think every map in Hitman 2, even Mumbai, which is probably my least favorite of the Hitman 2 missions, is an absolute triumph, and I'm excited to get to all of them. The ending cinematic for this mission is called Dead Ends, and features a meeting between the Constant and the mysterious Partners of Providence. The meeting is held inside of a giant suspended glass-inverted pyramid in a rocky, remote mountain region. The attendees aren't physically present, rather projecting themselves as holograms while immersed in VR, making this the most elaborate and expensive Zoom call of all time. The Partners are criticizing the Constant for his decision to kill Knox, as they've already lost many of their operatives.
Knox was a traitor. He would have caused incalculable damage.
And he won't be the last. This is exactly what the enemy wants. We need to fight the sickness, not the symptom.
And I have just the tool for the job.
We also learn that he's eyed Diana and wants to try to lure her to Providence's side for real, inducting her into the organization. This is going to be important later on, so keep it in mind. Then we get a major reveal. The Constant has finally managed to identify who the Shadow Client is, a man named Lucas Gray, the head of Cobb's security. You'll recall Cobb was the bank director who had one of the keys used to access the vault where Providence kept information on all of their assets and operatives, which was stolen after Cobb's airplane mysteriously crashed.
His name is Lucas Gray, the late Mr. Cobb's head of security. Cobb was ground zero, first of our operatives to die. It had to be one of his staff, someone with military training and access to the plane.
Grasping at straws.
Gray is a mercenary, a veteran of every backwater tragedy you've ever ignored on the 5 o'clock news. Chechnya, Sierra Leone, the list goes on, but before '89, nothing. No records of any kind.
Ah, come on. CIA, KGB, plenty of spies went dark.
After the curtain was lifted, I cast a very wide net. Lucas Gray simply does not exist.
If you're all quite done wetting yourselves with excitement, I couldn't give two shits where he came from. I only want to know one thing.
How does he know about us?
Then we shift focus to Gray, as he speaks to Olivia from a familiar location, the Romanian orphanage where Agent 47 was raised. This remote abandoned orphanage is what Gray is using as his secret base of operations. Olivia tells Gray to wake up and recognize that 47 is his enemy, not the friend he once knew, but Gray is convinced that if he can make 47 remember his past, he'll become the militia's most powerful ally, and their only lead on the partners. The cutscene ends with Gray calling Rico Delgado on the phone, setting up our next mission in Colombia. We shift focus to a bloody handprint under some wallpaper that Gray knew to find there, implying that he is familiar with this place. It turns out Providence might not be the only lead 47 has on his mysterious and forgotten past. Lucas Gray knew 47 before his memory was wiped, and if he can get 47 to listen, he might be able to tell him everything. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members for helping keep the channel and this Hitman series running. Jade Wang, Mari SQZ, Sean Kolb, Sir Darkon, Strix 2031, Parker Malarkey, Rachel Aurelia, Dodie Gore, Dan Luther, Tommaso Sensi, Michael Beach, Lucky Tiger, Still Just Cow, Jose Armalas, William, Cabbage, Rekka, Florine, Rachel Judith Chumness, Bouncy Beagle, Alex Smith, Picayune, Hakan Boyum, Pete Lee, Knitend, Shiny Emptyhead, Lucas Creighton, That's All, Bell Mage, and Malachi Murphy. It always means a lot that you guys are willing to spend your real-life, hard-earned money to help me keep making videos. I know this video took a while, it's been a big one, but the good news is I've already got the script for not just the next Hitman episode, but the next 2 Hitman episodes finished, and all of the footage I need for them, or at least most of the footage I need for them, recorded, so they should be coming in the near future. Next time, we'll be journeying to Colombia to take down a sinister drug kingpin in the small village of Santa Fortuna.